Oh Christ, there is no number one challenge. There's just a big, big mess of things that all of them are shouting for my attention. My son likes watch. He's only 6, bless him. He likes to watch these nature programs. In the morning, I wake up and I'm thinking, which one of these little birds in the nest is asking for food today, and which one do I get to feed first? And it's almost like this, that you've got all these different things that all need their attention to go forward.
Hi, I'm Nishit Shah, and I am the CEO and founder of Sparrow, a custom software development agency where we very recently launched Raised.fund. It's a place to get your funding news and data from across the web all in one place. As a part of this side project, I also talk to and connect with founders. I interview them and learn about their startup journey, their 0 to 1 journey. Today, I'm in conversation with Dr. Sterghios Moschos, the CEO and founder of PulmoBioMed, based out of Northeast England. They are focused on collecting sampling fluids from deep lungs without contamination. Dr. Moschos, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to me.
Pleasure is all mine.
Dr. Moschos, you and your colleagues are doing some brilliant work. Tell me more about the problem you are solving and why is it so important?
Certainly. So the problem is it's very, very simple, really. When it comes to any other disease or most other diseases, we can get a sample from the part of a body that is not in a good state. And a lot of it really comes down to getting a blood sample. But there are some diseases out there that you really need to get to the tissue itself. So the heart tends to give you a lot of the signals in the blood. The liver gives you a lot of the signals in the blood. But the lung, now the lung is one of those tissues that, although it gets a lot of blood through it, it doesn't necessarily tell you exactly what's going on in the bloodstream. And what we've all wanted for the past however many decades is to get a sample from the lung itself. And in today's medicine, where we look at the molecules and the genes that change and cause disease, we're still relying on an X-ray that you can do maybe twice a year, or maybe if you're lucky, an MRI or a CT scan, to give you a macroscopic, a large lump picture of what's wrong in your lungs. That doesn't always tell you what's wrong. If you've got cancer, you can see the lump when it's already a lump. If you've got advanced tuberculosis, you can see that in an X-ray. If you've got maybe something obstructing your airways because you've swallowed a pea or something like that, you can see it in an X-ray. But when it comes to the more subtle diseases like asthma, like COPD, like pulmonary fibrosis in its onset, you really can't get clear signals from imaging. You need to get a sample from the lung. And the way we traditionally do this in the clinic is to ask patients, if possible, to cough up phlegm. And of course, that phlegm, as it comes up, it gets contaminated by the upper airways, it gets contaminated by what you had for lunch or breakfast, or your gammy tooth that you may have an infection going on. It doesn't give you an accurate picture of what's exactly happening deep inside your lungs. So the clinicians, what they really want to do is stick that tube deep inside the lung and get a liquid sample or a pinch from your lung, get it out, analyze it in the lab. But that can cause problems in 1 in 7 people. It's a very expensive process. In the US, it's somewhere between $6,500 and $8,500 to do just to pick up the sample. It also gets contamination problems. So what patients are left with is this situation where they get infrequent or late diagnoses and very poor follow-up monitoring. The lung cancer patients have no way to find out what's wrong with the tumor, and when it comes back, to select the right treatment. So they just go straight on to chemo and radiotherapy, and let's hope for the best for an immunotherapy that the clinician chooses randomly, really. So this is what we're trying to solve. This is what we have solved. We have this device that is handheld. It's very simple to use. You just put it with a mask on your face, and you just exhale into the device. And the device separates your saliva, and it takes the liquid sample that we can't see on a warm day, and maybe a lot of your friends in India can't ever see unless they're up in a mountain and they see the white cloud. We breathe on a cold day. So we pick up that white cloud, we collect it. We don't take all of it. We take the last bit of your breath. So it's the bit that's come out of your lungs. And we do it again and again and again for every single breath that you're giving. So we've got enough of a sample to find out what's going on in your lung.
Wow. And how much would it cost? Well, you say that in the US, a procedure like this without contamination might cost, you say what, just
$6,500 to $8,500 involving an anesthesiologist, intubation, potential risk of injury, etc. So we are going to put this on the market at £150 per sample.
You spent many years in the academia. You were a professor at North America University. How is life as a professor different than that as a founder and CEO?
Wow, that's a very interesting question there, which I haven't actually sit down to think about. It's very, very different. The mission is the same, right? I mean, at the end of the day, what you're trying to do is improve society. You want to, as an academic, you want to improve society by delivering research that has an impact, that delivers either change in policy or change in the economy, that change the way we look and deliver healthcare in my field. And you also want to change that by training people who will be the future scientists that will do the same. Well, as a founder and a CEO, the mission remains the same. You want to change the way the world works, right? By bringing a product of very high quality that can disrupt a sector. At least that's what I want to do with this company. It's been a problem for 40 years that people have been actively trying to solve. How do we get a breath sample from the deep lung without contamination from the mouth? And we have solved it. So we are poised now to make that change in the world. Now, in terms of the day-to-day, well, there's still hard work required. There's still a lot of talking to people, a lot of explaining, a lot of trying to simplify very complicated things. Perhaps there's a bit more convincing involved in the startup world, because a lot of people in academia, at least students, they take what you're saying for granted. When you're talking to other academics, every academic knows better, of course, than the other one. So there's a bit of convincing involved there. But when the data is reproducible and people take it and see that the results are the same, and you have built your reputation on you publish only when the results are highly reproducible, then there's a bit less of convincing to make. The interesting thing is that you talk to people of all walks of life in academia, but they tend to be younger. In industry, you will talk across the age groups, across nationalities, and you will go out to them. It's not about them coming to you. It's about you going out to them and putting it in their language, in their way of thinking. Why is it important to them what you do? And it's all about understanding their problem and whether or not your solution fits. And if it doesn't fit, being honest and straightforward enough to say, hey, you know what? Go and talk to so-and-so because they've got a better solution for your problem. I think that's a big thing. We as entrepreneurs, as founders, as scientists need to become more comfortable about that. We need to point other solutions and technologies out there that can do things we cannot. It's not all about you. It's about the community and the world.
What's the one skill you think that all founders must have?
Listening. You have to be able to listen, and you have to listen to anything and everything people have to say. There's a very, very influential book I read recently called The Mum Test, and it's all about asking the right kind of questions so that you get the answers that people want to express, not the answers that you want to hear. So a lot of the skill of listening is making sure that the discussions you're having are going in the right direction.
Mom Test is a fantastic, brilliant book. I'm a big fan. Do you have any mantras you live by? Mine is make mistakes. What's yours?
Very good question. If I'm allowed, I've got two. The first one is one that was given to me by a very influential professor in the world of drug delivery. And as I was walking across the podium to receive my PhD, he just held my hand and said, Sterghios, I've watched what you've done. Go as far as you can see, then see how far you can go. And here I am today. And in the process of that, I learned that it's okay to make mistakes because we're only human. But it's not about trying and trying again. It's about figuring out why we made mistakes. So find out why you've made mistakes so that you don't make them in the future, not just keep banging your head against the wall, if you like.
As a CEO, what's your number one challenge right now?
Oh, Christ. There is no number one challenge. There's just a big, big mess of things that all of them are shouting for my attention. You know, my son likes watch, he's only 6, bless him. He likes to watch these nature programs. In the morning, I wake up and I'm thinking, which one of these little birds in the nest is asking for food today? And which one do I get to feed first? And it's almost like this, that you've got all these different things that all need their attention to go forward. But what's essential in a business, especially a business like ours, is focus. So we are laser focused on getting our product in through manufacturing and ready for launch later in the year. So we have some internal targets that we want to meet. We have some challenges we need to overcome. This is my top priority. The second biggest priority is growing my team to get the work that we want to do in asthma off the ground as quickly as possible. And then I need to follow up with my customers who have been patiently waiting for this press release that came out yesterday before we can resume some of the activities that will allow them to gain a lot more confidence that they have some of them already on our product.
What's the biggest mistake that you have made in your founder CEO journey?
Ah, no, it's a good one. I haven't thought about that. I am you caught me unprepared on this one. I mean, there are many mistakes you make on the way, right? And it would be for me, it would not be fair from one mistake to another not to acknowledge them because they all influence what the business does and has done on the way across. If people starting or halfway through this journey of trying to get money into a startup are watching, the biggest advice I have to give you is don't go out there and pitch to everyone. You get all this training about pitch, 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 pitch to your grandmother, pitch to the guy in the metro, pitch to the guy in the plane, pitch to the taxi driver, pitch to the guy you buying your groceries from. And that's right. Because the simpler you make your value proposition, the clearer it's going to be to the investor. So you need to get that skill to literally at a drop of a hat go, bang, this is what I do. But when you go out to pitch to raise money, choose who you pitch to. There's no point in creating a list of VCs or a list of angels that are not active in your sector in the hope that you are the best next thing since sliced bread because you believe in it so much that they will believe in it so much that will pull out the checkbook and write a check for you. Focus, do your homework, spend more time identifying people who are relevant to you and go and pitch to them. And don't pitch, talk to them. Be human. Because when what these people, they get 500-600 emails a week asking them to part with their money, right? And they all get a pitch. And probably within the first 3 seconds, they've switched off without even consciously knowing about it. Whereas if you just happen to be in a networking event and you're talking and you're mum testing your value proposition and they turn around their head and they engage, that's when you have hooked them. But if you just kick off on a monologue, they just switch off. So ask questions. Don't pitch.
Very interesting. Before we end, the last question, what's the one book that have inspired you the most?
Oh, come on, that's not fair. There's no one book that inspires anyone the most. And anyone who, wants to do something in their life doesn't read only one book. They read a lot of books.
All right. So
So,
what's the one book that you would recommend me that in recent times that you have read apart from Mom Test that you have enjoyed?
right. So there is a lot of literature out there in the about the startup world, about how to do pitching, how to do business, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I think I'll be a little bit left field. I'm going to say, don't forget to read outside your field, right? why am I here today? Because when I was a PhD student 20 years ago, I went to all those research seminars that had nothing to do with my area of research. You know, when you're studying science, most people go, "Oh, I'm working on this particular letter of the keyboard. I don't care there are other keys on the keyboard. I work on letter H. Oh, that one to the next one, it's a bit wobbly. It's J. What's that got to do with me?" It's got a lot more than you think. So if you go out there and you listen to what the other people are doing, someday, some point, you may ask somebody the question about letter J that you've never worked on, but you've picked up on the value of that in your field. And some way, somehow, it might lead you to a venture or to something that's never been solved before. That's exactly what happened with PulmoBioMed. I listened to another talk, entirely irrelevant, and it's not the only time that that's happened to me. You remember the black hole picture a couple of years ago? When that came out, I read the paper, and the approach they had on data analysis almost lit a light bulb in my head about what we need to do in genomics for something related to lung disease that I was working on. And I was like, hey, that might give me an answer about what's working in this problem in idiopathic fibrosis. So I just asked the student to basically develop that method for biological data. Hey, presto, we got a paper out of it, and we discovered something nobody else had discovered. So I'm going to say to you, whoever's watching this, go into the bookshop, go into the part of the bookshop that you don't normally go to, and just pick up the first random book that you come across. Don't even look at the binder. Just pick it up. Leaf through it. It's got something for you in there that might be useful. Read outside your comfort zone. Read outside your area of expertise.
Great. Dr. Sterghios, thank you so much. You have been very generous with your time. You are working on something very, very important, and I'm rooting for you.
Thank you very much.